Occupational English Test. Online course, Practice Test 1. Listening Test. This test has 3 parts. In each part, you'll hear a number of different extracts. At the start of each extract, you'll hear this sound. You'll have time to read the questions before you hear each extract, and you'll hear each extract once only. Complete your answers as you listen. At the end of the test, you'll have 2 minutes to check your answers. Part A. In this part of the test, you'll hear 2 different extracts. In each extract, a health professional is talking to a patient. For questions 1 to 24, complete the notes with information you hear. Now look at the notes for extract 1. Extract 1, questions 1 to 12. You hear a consultant rheumatologist talking to a patient called Suzanne Hines. For questions 1 to 12, complete the notes with a word or short phrase. You now have 30 seconds to look at the notes.
Afternoon, Mrs. Hines. Now, you've been referred to me by your GP.
That's right.
OK, so I've got some notes here with his referral letter, but it'd be helpful if you could tell me in your own words about the problems you've been having.
Well, I've been having various symptoms recently. Apart from generally feeling tired, I've started noticing how chapped my lips were. I'm always using lip salve. Then, on top of that, I began getting quite a few mouth ulcers, and they're really sore. Oh, and something else. I've always gone regularly to the dentist and, well, I used to have the odd filling, but now she keeps finding dental cavities, so I'm always having them done.
I see. And does your mouth feel dry?
Yes. I'm always sipping water to try and help, but it doesn't really, and my tongue started hurting. I noticed in the mirror it looks, well, cracked is the way I'd try to describe it. My whole mouth feels different.
And you've had some eye problems too, I gather.
Yeah, they feel dry too. But then some mornings when I wake up, my eyelids themselves feel, well, sticky. The skin area around my eyes itchy too, and I end up rubbing it. I mean, it's particularly bad when I'm somewhere with air conditioning, like at work.
And have any over-the-counter treatments helped?
Well, I don't fancy putting ointment round my eye, but I do use eye drops, which help, though the effect soon does wear off. I wonder if the drops are causing other problems, like I keep on getting conjunctivitis, and people mention how tired I look. It's so embarrassing.
And what about your vision? Is that affected?
Well, I must say strong sunlight really does bother me now. I use sunglasses a lot more than I did, and, well, yeah, thinking about it, things do look, well, cloudy occasionally, and that worries me a bit, actually.
Yeah, it must do. Is there anything else you've noticed? What about your throat?
Well, it's not really sore as such, but from time to time it feels what I call rough. And when I eat, I've always got to have a drink to hand. It can be hard getting stuff down otherwise, to be honest. I've never used to have any problems swallowing food, but I do tend to panic now if I haven't got something to drink while I eat. I don't know if I'm imagining it too, but I could swear my throat's a bit swollen. It's hard to remember how it was before.
And is this affecting your job? Is it making things harder at work?
Tell me about it. My voice is often strained anyhow, as, well, I'm a tour guide, so talking most of the day. But everything's making that worse, and I often struggle to be heard. And, well, lunchtimes are always rushed anyhow, but now it's taking me longer to eat, and I've got less time than ever. I do wonder if all my years as a smoker are returning to haunt me. I mean, though I smoked about 10 a day for about 15 years, it's a good 12 years since I gave up.
Oh, well, that can only be doing you good. And what about your family? Do you know of anyone having similar symptoms to yours?
No, not that I know of. My dad always smoked and he didn't have any lung problems as I recall. My gran and aunt suffered from rheumatoid arthritis, though. Well, I do remember that.
Right.
I don't think I've got that, though. My symptoms are completely different.
Well, no, but we do need to check possible links. For example, an autoimmune problem. We'll start by checking your saliva production with what's called a saliva flow rate test.
Okay, that sounds straightforward.
Yes, it's pretty self-explanatory. But I'm also going to recommend a biopsy of your lip, the lower one.
Oh, that sounds odd. What for exactly?
Well, it'll let us see the salivary gland tissue. Don't worry, you won't feel anything. It's done under local anaesthetic. And you've not had a thyroid function test, so I might recommend that you have one of those, depending on the earlier test results.
Okay, fine. Well, anything that sorts out this problem. I mean,
Extract 2. Questions 13 to 24. You hear a gastroenterologist talking to a patient called Toby Smithers. For questions 13 to 24, complete the notes with a word or short phrase. You now have 30 seconds to look at the notes.
Mr. Smithers?
That's right, Toby Smithers.
Now, I think you've been having some stomach problems.
Yes, that's right. For some time, actually.
OK, I've got some notes here, but perhaps you can tell me in your own words about those problems. About any treatment you've been having, or anything else you can remember that seems relevant.
OK. It all started about 9 months ago with a stomach upset.
OK.
I thought I'd caught the vomiting bug that was going round.
Yes.
Basically, I just couldn't keep anything down. No diarrhoea or anything, but it was pretty bad.
Right.
Anyway, it cleared up in a couple of days, and I went back to eating normally. The thing was, though, from that time on, whenever I had a meal, lunch or dinner, I'd feel incredibly sleepy almost before I'd finished, and for about half an hour afterwards. I didn't feel tired as such. I mean, not in the sense of fatigue. It's just that I could hardly keep my eyes open.
I see. Were you in any pain?
No, none at all. The only other symptom was that I was getting very thirsty, especially at night, so I was drinking a lot.
Right.
So I went to see the doctor, expecting some simple explanation, but she said my symptoms were quite unusual. Well, not the drinking. She explained that the stomach upset had left me dehydrated.
Yes, that's right.
But it didn't explain my other main symptom.
And the dehydration passed?
Yeah, that was just a temporary thing. Then she asked me if I'd ever had stomach cancer, which was a bit worrying.
But you haven't?
No. But then she explained that there's a condition that has similar symptoms to those I had. She didn't think I actually had that condition because it generally affects people who've had stomach surgery, and I hadn't. It's called gastric dumping syndrome.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, what she suggested as, well, like an interim measure was following the treatment plan for that syndrome, even though I probably hadn't got it. So I had to keep drinking because I needed to keep my fluid levels up.
Yes.
But not whilst I was eating. So in other words, I had to separate the two activities by about half an hour. Then as for the meals themselves, she suggested an eating regime that she called little and often. So, no major blowouts and no skipping meals either.
Sure. Did that help?
Yeah, it did, but it was only meant to help me in the short term. Because meanwhile, I had various tests I gave a urine sample, went for a blood test, neither of which showed up anything untoward. So I just hoped it'd clear up of its own accord.
But it didn't.
Well, no. The regime worked all right, but as soon as I went back to eating and drinking normally, the symptoms would come back.
Okay.
So the doctor referred me for an endoscopy. I saw a gastroenterologist for that. He'd looked at my other test results and examined me and everything.
Sure.
And of course, once the results of that came back, they showed that I'd got Helicobacter pylori.
I see.
So I went on the course of treatment, the 3 drugs for 2 weeks, 2 different antibiotics and an antacid. That's the combination which gets rid of it.
Yes.
After that, I went back for a breath test and that was all clear. So I thought that'd be the end of it and I'd be back to normal.
But you're not.
Well, I've given it a couple of months, but the symptoms are the same.
Okay.
If I stick to the eating regime, I'm okay. When I come off it, I'm back to square one. So I'm thinking, sure, the stomach problem that the gastroenterologist found has been dealt with, but that wasn't what was causing the original problem.
And how's this affecting your everyday life?
I can live with it. Obviously, it would be different if I was driving for a living or operating machinery, but I'm a teacher, so it's okay. But to cut a long story short, I asked for a second opinion, and so here I am.
That is the end of Part A. Now look at Part B.